welcome to another episode of the Way of series with Micah Silveria. We put together this series of question and answers with Micah because Micah has spent the last 25 years of his life developing an incredible awareness and consciousness and knowledge of many subjects, one of which is the Way of Consciousness, which we will be discussing tonight. Micah is a layman, so his perspective will come from a layman who has done an incredible amount of his own personal research, and we encourage you to use this information that you're going to hear tonight to then look into and explore yourself. So we want to thank Micah for joining us tonight. Thank you, Micah.
Thank you, Raven.
So we decided to talk about the way of consciousness because consciousness is kind of one of those buzzwords happening right now, and a lot of people I don't think are really truly aware of what consciousness truly is, what it means to be conscious. And so I think it would be great to hear you just share your perspective on what consciousness really is. So what is consciousness?
Well, consciousness is a very interesting word that there really is no definitive explanation for. We're still learning what the word means as far as consciousness goes. We have thought of it as cognitive awareness of the awareness of being a human being, and especially using the five senses. Some animals are consciously aware. They're aware of their environment. So we have associated it with our neurological systems, our nerves, and our five senses. Yet what the scientists are looking into is the possibility that everything has consciousness. And when we really define as best we can consciousness, it really has to do with awareness. Mm-hmm. And what they're finding is that maybe even everything is aware. Not just animate or living things, but also possibly inanimate things, meaning things that don't have life, as we think of as life, that moving around, we consider life. Most people consider that life. But the reality is that the possibility that even things like rocks have consciousness, things in the universe, the planet has a type of consciousness. And in the book, The Living Energy Universe by Gary Schwartz and Linda Russick, they talk a lot about the experiments that they have done with living systems, with systems of information. And what they believe is that everything in the whole universe remembers. Everything has awareness. And they've even done a lot of research on the research that's been done in looking at organ transplant, let's say, for example, that people who get somebody else's heart or somebody else's liver in an organ transplant will start to have the memory of that person. They'll start to have behaviors. They'll start to talk like that person. They'll start to crave foods that person craved. Some of them have literally had memory coming from that person that they got the organ from. So they're looking at the possibility, the hypothesis in this type of research is that if the organ has awareness or memory of where it used to live and carries forth that memory, then they're looking at the cells themselves, the tissue, without eyes or ears or nose as we know them, that it has awareness, therefore it has consciousness.
So almost like it has a brain of its own that goes with us, or what our brain does in terms of storing our awareness of things, that it's really not just our brain doing that, obviously, that it's every cell.
Every cell. And in fact, some of the hypothesis goes deeper than that, and they believe that each atom and subatomic particles have the ability to be aware of their environment. And not just aware, but to remember where they have been, what they have experienced, and store that memory, and then share it in larger and larger and larger systems of information. Because again, as a human being, we're a very complex system of information that has evolved in the physical world as we know it over millions and millions of years from the perspective of biological systems, information systems, from a single cell organism into multi-cell organisms, into larger bodies of organisms, eventually becoming something that looks like a human being as a biological thing. In some research, they've even seen when people are getting operated on in a medical operation, that they can be completely anesthetized and unconscious in the physical body, but yet there have been many instances where they have separated from the physical body some part of them has separated from the physical body and watched the whole event from somewhere up in the roof. So even though their body, their five senses, was unconscious, there was another part of that same person that had consciousness and was conscious of everything that was going on from a different perspective of their physical body.
Now, can you explain just how that could be possible? Because for the average person trying to imagine someone with their body unconscious and laying on a table and then them having an awareness, almost a from above perspective, how would that be possible?
Well, I think, and a lot of people probably watching this program and listening to this are very aware that this is possible. And in science, when we start to look into especially quantum fields of science, because quantum science really has to do with the study of energy. And the idea in science is that we are possibly living in a multi-dimensional universe, that there are actually many dimensions that are happening at the same time compared to just the one that we're used to. Like we're used to this one dimension of reality that we're walking around in our body in. And what they're finding is the possibility, in fact, the high probability, that there are many dimensions going on at the same time. So when we relate this to us, there's a good possibility that we are made up of many dimensions of reality. And there is a part of us, a systems part of us, that really lives forever as an energy system that uses the body as a vehicle or a tool in this particular dimension.